It's your boy Bazz, and y'all tuned in to another episode of Ian's podcast. Man, today I'm going to be kicking it off, man, diving straight into the analytics, man, but we're going to be talking about the podcast game. I know some of y'all is podcasting out there, and, we all embark on these journeys, and, it ends the family, man, so let's embark on this journey together. I got my data analytics pulled up, and I'm going to be going over the top 3 things that I needed to fix in order to start seeing an increase in streams. So let's dive straight into it. As y'all can see pulled up, y'all see like ever since when was this? This was December 18th. Ever since December 18th, I've been seeing a steady increase in my daily streams. If y'all could look over to the side, y'all can see sort of the numbers in the video. It says 500,000, 1.5K. So y'all can know what like the average, like what the weekly average or what the average is. And by any means, I'm not saying like I'm out here doing crazy numbers. This ain't to brag or boast or anything like that. As y'all can see before, it was like I was way under 100, doing way under 100 streams. But one of the first things I started to notice, what was wrong, and I started looking at like my competitors and stuff like that. Not necessarily looking at them in a sense like, damn, I'm trying to see what they're doing. But more so, well, actually, yeah, I'm trying to see what they're doing, but I'm trying to get an understanding of what is the actual structure, and then try to see like how I want to, do it in my sense. So I started seeing that like, dang, like, they got like their graphic art. You feel me? That was one of the first things I changed. And when I changed that, I started seeing like a small increase at first. So one of the first things I changed was my graphic art. Just that cover art, because that's the first thing somebody see, and that's the representation of you and what your voice may be about. So a lot of times people, they click on what they feel like is either interesting, popping out, grabbing their attention, and that's something that it can, something that they can relate to. So over that time too, we was testing out just various different ways. The one thing I seen in particular was always creating a custom image. Depending on what I'm talking, depending on what the podcast episode is about, we have our standard, our standard cover image. But depending on what the episode is about, if we're featuring somebody or we're covering a certain product or we're covering a resource or we're talking about a certain situation, something like that, we will basically design a cover, specifically for that episode. So it can reach, it translate a lot better, the message could translate a lot better, because say like if we just had like one like we do, we have like one just like generic, like our standard, just like cover art for our podcast episodes. But that cover art might not really relate to somebody that's trying to listen to, like, say like if they're trying to listen to something like Cars or something, and we got like ends and a shark on the cover of it, they're gonna be looking like, yeah, it seems cool, but it might not really grasp their attention. But then they might see a different one where it's an actual car, like Charger on the front, and they say, and then it's like, ends podcast, and then they gonna probably look at it like, oh, it's nice. They might be talking about muscle cars. I got a Charger, I got a Challenger, I'm interested in Challenger, things like that. So I started trying to figuring out just different ways. How can I, just package up the look of the actual podcast episode, just far as marketing wise. Then the next thing, I started improving, for real, I had to start improving was, man, podcast episode detail, and started paying more attention to how I was titling my podcast episodes. Because one thing for sure, when I was looking at different individuals, like I'm looking like they titles ain't really all the way catchy or nothing like that. But the big difference between them and me, like, always understand what your circumstances. That's why I say I wasn't like, for them, they already had big audiences. You feel me? And so more so, I had to kind of give you. For me, I didn't necessarily have the audience, so I had to kind of put those keywords that you're looking for in my title. So it can kind of grasp your attention, so you can know exactly like, oh yeah, this is something that I'm looking for. So for example, if I was to say, like, interview, well, like, talking Robin, well, for example, just saying we did a podcast episode going over Robinhood, saying like using Robinhood, dividends, trading stocks, buying stocks. So then it's like if somebody was to be scrolling past that, they'll see that, then they'll be like, all right, well, boom, he probably gonna be talking about dividends. I want to learn about dividends. He's gonna be talking about how to buy the stocks, and he's gonna be probably talking about how to trade the stocks. They more, like versus me saying like using Robinhood. Then they might be like, they probably not really interested in the actual platform itself. They could have been just interested in the actual process. You feel me? Going back to those keywords, they probably was interested in learning about dividends because they heard it before or something like that. Keywords that triggered them, like, like they heard dividends before or something like that. They're probably familiar with that. They probably, and interested in learning about that. Or if it's buying stock, they probably was interested and want to learn how to buy stock, but never really got into it and was like, damn, I got time. Let me listen to this real fast. Or it could have been, on the flip side, like selling stock, just going into like, dang, like I wonder how do people be selling stock, and that might grasp their attention versus me just using just Robinhood, like, just this is how you use Robinhood. But I started putting different keywords and, just different words in there to try to give the listener and whoever's searching a better idea of what my message and what the values that are in my message is about. And you see this when, like, and other forms, when people write articles and stuff like that to try to, grasp your attention, or social media stuff like that was, is really that attention grabber. I'm trying to get your attention, so I have to focus on that. So that's going even into the detail when people read the podcast episode, because then they might still be on the fence. They might click on it, but like, let me see what this episode is actually really about. If you ain't really got no good description about what you're talking about, they're gonna be like, they might move along or they might click. But it's like we want to reinforce that. So start taking a little bit more time to actually focus on, podcast description, like giving that actual podcast description. At first we weren't really giving one. We just saying like, we're the voice of the culture, or this is the latest podcast episode, and put like the episode title again or something like that, and probably like a link to something else. But it was like giving like any, and at that I started realizing it didn't even have to be that long. It just giving like a brief summary. It could be a couple minutes or something. I mean, I said a couple minutes, a couple sentences. As you see, like on the back of like books and stuff like that, or on Netflix, for example, most I start looking at different businesses that do that. You feel me? Like, as I'm just saying, for example, books, you look on the back of books, it's like a little small little paragraph, brief summary, and they might have a little summary about the author. You look on Netflix when you go search for a different video, something like that. They got like a small little video description. Some of them are bigger than more, and some of them even come with a trailer, but some of them just got, but all of them got that brief description. So you can get like, you can kind of, get a idea of what the concept or what this movie could possibly be about. You would do the same thing if you were looking at product. You feel me, man? So just going more deeper into it, man, we start talking just description, just being more mindful of how you want to give a detailed summary about your podcast, and understanding that is really needed. The third and most foremost, man, is really having an actual distribution marketing strategy. And I put both those words together for a reason. So when I first was starting out, man, I wasn't utilizing all the various podcasting platforms. I wasn't even really marketing the podcast. I mean, like sharing it on, social media and things of that nature. So that is one big flaw right there. Like, don't nobody know about you. Who gonna really come see about you? If you don't put yourself, if you don't present yourself to nobody, you don't really give them really the opportunity. You just really hoping for an opportunity instead of, kind of putting forth the effort to place yourself in front of these just different various people. So just thinking in the sense of distribution, I started looking at it of just pieces of pie. Like if I can create a small audience on Apple, if I can create a small audience on Spotify, if I can create a small audience on iHeartRadio, if I can create a small audience on Pandora, if I can create a small audience on Deezer, if I can create a small audience on Stitcher, I can keep going on and on. But we on numerous, like basically every major platform. But around that time, that's when I had to start really doing the legwork of that. Really start thinking about it in a sense like, man, I'm trying to be on, man, I'm trying to be like McDonald's or Starbucks. I want to be on every corner. Like that way we could catch all the foot traffic. And then it starts to, it starts to add up. Especially when you start monetizing your podcast, you will really start to understand what I'm talking about. So not only do we have our own website, but I know when I was starting out, I was using platforms like SoundCloud, for example. But at the same time, I wasn't really like focusing on sharing it and like really like distributing my podcast episodes. And really trying to focus on like putting them in front of people that will find value in the content that I'm producing. I just kind of just put it out there and just hope that somebody was going to stumble across of it and hey, it was going to catch fire. I was going to wake up one day and I was going to, have 1,000 streams or something like that. But that's really not how it works. And just because you share it or something like that, that's really not like just because you just posted like, hey, check out. That's one way to start. You feel me? Hey, congrats to you. That's the one way to start. But I'm like talking about really like distributing your podcast, putting it in front of, those different audiences. So when I say that, it was like, man, if I put my podcast on like something like Spotify, and when I know that most people that got iPhones or Apple products, they're going to use Apple services. So which means Apple's Music or Apple Podcasts. So I'm kind of already, if I don't go into that market, I'm kind of edging myself out a little bit. So I place myself in that market as well. Then I start looking at it from Android user. Like not everybody has Spotify. Like, you feel me? But one thing that I know that every Android phone comes with is Google Play Music. So I made sure I put my podcast on Google Play Music. And I was just breaking down the pie like that, like, and just start thinking in the terms of, meeting people where they're at, And that's one of the biggest things about ends, you feel me, making the most of our current circumstance. But we always say we are the voice of the culture, but you got to go to where the voices are. You feel me? To be able, to voice those culture, like to be the voice of the culture, you got to be in it, so you got to go to where it's at. So if I want to, get more iPhone users, more Apple users, go to where the Apple iPhone users at. If they mainly streaming off of Apple services, then hey, you gotta kind of bite the bullet. Like I ain't gonna, like say I don't own an iPhone. Long story short, I own Android, like Android operating devices, whatever you want to call it, Android phones. That's what I got. I ain't no Apple user. I ain't the one that's saying, oh, I don't pick up or I ain't responding back if your message is a certain color. I ain't know none of that. I had an iPhone before, so I ain't gonna knock it. Had it before, but just long story short, I'm just saying, like, I had to take, like, how people be having those biased opinions, put that to the side and really try to hit the mark and really understand what the goal was. The goal was to help voices be heard. We are a platform and that we want to, basically empower voices. So we ain't doing no justice if we ain't out there really trying to make sure the people that we bring onto our shows, like making sure that their voices ain't being heard. I ain't gonna restrict them. You feel me? So it's like I had to put my own bias to the side. I was like, all right, well, let me go to just reach out to these various markets. So at first I'm like, man, let me build my own. But I'm like, this is how you build your own. You feel me? It's a thing called it's a term I learned during school. You feel me? I want to say it's cultural diffusion. You feel me? And that's really like how trade, like a lot of trade happen, you feel me, is where it's cultural diffusion. It's when you bring your culture, to somewhere else, so they bring their culture to where you at. So it's like, all right, man, so I got to go meet those that may be interested, but right now, they Apple users. I got to go meet them, you feel me? Or maybe they don't use none of that. Maybe they iHeartRadio or something like that. I got to go there. I got to go to these different markets where they is trying to digest the value that I'm trying to, give them. You feel me? That's coming from the, the various people that come, on our platforms, just sharing that message. So the last just real big key point, too, is distribution. But at the same time, these all go hand in hand. And the reason why I say that is because you don't want to push nothing that like they won't understand. You got to always make sure that you can, that the message is relatable to who you trying to target. And that's the biggest thing. Especially just going back and just to what we were just saying, just being the voice of the culture. You want to make sure that you are properly representing those voices that you are, spreading out into the world. And you want to make sure that whatever that's presenting them is properly is presenting them, on both ends. So that goes into the cover art, like just the description. I'm about to say product description, but it's more so the podcast description. You feel me? The cover art, if it's about somebody, you feel me, highlight them. You feel me, in the cover art, or if it's about a certain organization or something like that. Like, that's what I was thinking in my mind. Not saying you have to do so. Everybody has their own process. Me personally, that's what I was thinking in my mind. Like, man, let me highlight them. So when somebody's scrolling past, they know exactly what they're getting. This is what our focus is on. Is on this person, this strategy, or, this business, or this experience, or, like you know exactly what you're getting. So it makes you feel more comfortable what you're clicking on. But, I've been talking for a little minute, man. Like I always say, when I ain't have no guest on and it's just me, I don't want to talk for too long because I love to get y'all feedback, man. Like I say, this is a conversation, and we always about, spreading voices, being the voice of the culture. So I want to hear, what are some challenges that you overcame, you feel me, with creating a podcast, and what are your interests, even in podcasting? Do you or do you even just say what's up, man? If you ain't got nothing to ask, you just want to say what's up, and you will appreciate what we doing, man. All gratitude, man, is good gratitude, man. We appreciate it. But don't forget, like, share, subscribe. And it's your boy Bazz. Y'all tuned in to another episode of Ian's podcast. And it's Ian's the family. And y'all know what it is. This podcast was produced by Ian's Media. We